The drama surrounding Cathy Engelbert's downfall didn't erupt overnight. It built slowly, behind boardroom doors and PR campaigns, until it exploded into a full-blown power shift that no one in the basketball world saw coming. For years, Engelbert had been the face of the WNBA, the corporate executive who promised to elevate women's basketball into mainstream prominence. She was polished, articulate, and publicly celebrated as the architect of the league's growth. But beneath that image, a quiet frustration was growing in the one man who held the ultimate power to change everything: NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Silver had always been patient. From the sidelines, he allowed Engelbert to manage the WNBA's affairs, rarely interfering even when controversies surfaced or when sponsorships began to waver. He'd watch calmly as Engelbert gave interviews about progress, celebrated inflated viewership numbers, and credited her business leadership for every success. But the illusion couldn't last forever. Silver had seen enough: the inconsistencies in the data, the exaggerated growth narratives, and the mounting complaints from corporate partners who felt misled. The WNBA's house of cards was trembling, and Silver's patience was running out. The breaking point came when Engelbert's public narrative began clashing with private reality. She continued to tout record-breaking ratings and booming interest. Yet behind closed doors, networks quietly admitted that viewership wasn't nearly as high as the press releases suggested. Sponsors questioned where their investments were going. Even players, energized by Caitlin Clark's massive arrival into the league, were beginning to question leadership. The WNBA was gaining attention, but not because of Engelbert. It was because of one player who had become a phenomenon, single-handedly dragging the league into global relevance. Caitlin Clark had transformed women's basketball. Her college dominance had captivated a nation, and her transition to the WNBA brought millions of new eyes to a league that had struggled for decades to break into mainstream conversation. Everywhere she went, tickets sold out, ratings spiked, merch sales shattered records. She was a lightning rod for attention, and Adam Silver noticed. He knew the WNBA's newfound relevance had less to do with business strategy and everything to do with Clark's magnetic presence. But Engelbert didn't see it that way. She continued to portray herself as the driving force behind the league's momentum, the steady hand guiding it through growth. That false confidence was the final spark. Silver had tolerated exaggeration before, but now it was costing credibility. Reports began surfacing that Silver was quietly preparing to restructure the WNBA's governance, integrating it directly under the NBA's operational framework. On paper, it looked like a collaborative initiative to expand women's basketball globally. In reality, it was a corporate takeover, one that would strip Engelbert of her authority without ever needing to fire her outright. Behind the scenes, Silver's office began working with international partners to build a new system of operations that would unify both leagues under a single global strategy. Sponsorships, media deals, and brand partnerships that once went through Engelbert's office were rerouted to the NBA's executive team. Budgets were reallocated, decision-making streamlined. Engelbert still held her title, but her influence evaporated. The WNBA, once presented as an independent institution, was being absorbed into the NBA's global machine. The final blow came when Silver announced his vision for a new phase of global basketball expansion, one that included bringing WNBA games to China. To the public, it sounded like another ambitious step toward international growth. But insiders knew exactly what it meant. Silver wasn't talking about the WNBA as a whole. He was talking about bringing Caitlin Clark to China. She was the face of the movement, the centerpiece of his expansion blueprint, and the living proof that women's basketball could become a worldwide spectacle. Engelbert was reportedly furious. She learned about the China discussions not through direct communication, but through internal memos that made their way to the press before she could respond. The partnership represented everything she had tried and failed to achieve during her tenure: global legitimacy, financial stability, true corporate interest. Now, Silver had accomplished it in a matter of months, and he had done it without her involvement. The shift was undeniable. Under Silver's guidance, the NBA's marketing and operations teams began handling WNBA affairs with precision. Global sponsors that had once kept their distance were now flooding back, eager to be part of what Silver was branding as the future of basketball. Networks that previously gave the WNBA late-night or secondary coverage were competing for prime broadcast slots whenever Clark played. The momentum was unstoppable, and Engelbert could do nothing but watch as her empire slipped from her grasp. Still, she refused to go quietly. Those close to Engelbert described her as increasingly agitated during internal meetings, questioning why so many key decisions were being made without her input. She attempted to launch her own PR campaign, giving interviews about her leadership and the league's growth, trying to frame Silver's involvement as a joint effort rather than a coup. But every time she tried to reclaim the spotlight, Silver's team unveiled another headline-grabbing move: a new sponsor, a new media deal, another international initiative. Her voice was being drowned out by a global machine that no longer needed her to function. Inside the WNBA offices, the power dynamics were clear. Executives who had once reported directly to Engelbert now answered to NBA management. The budget she once controlled required approval from Silver's finance department. Marketing campaigns that she used to oversee were now reviewed by the NBA's branding division. Her autonomy had vanished. The real turning point came when Silver formally unveiled his one basketball vision, a comprehensive plan to align the NBA and WNBA under a unified global structure. The proposal introduced cross-league analytics teams, shared sponsorship models, and integrated media operations. Every piece of it represented a future where both leagues operated as one ecosystem. It was bold, efficient, and undeniably powerful, and it effectively ended Cathy Engelbert's era in women's basketball. When Silver presented the plan at a private meeting with league stakeholders, applause filled the room. Engelbert sat in silence. She understood the symbolism of that moment. Every hand clapping in support was another nail in the coffin of her authority. Her legacy, once built on the image of innovation and progress, was being rewritten right in front of her. And this time, she wasn't the author. Soon after, reports began circulating that Engelbert had been offered an advisory role, a symbolic position meant to preserve dignity while removing her from real decision-making. The title sounded graceful, but everyone understood what it meant. She had been replaced. The woman once praised as the savior of the WNBA had been outmaneuvered by the man who built basketball's greatest empire. Meanwhile, Silver's rise within the women's game was nothing short of revolutionary. He wasn't just managing a league anymore. He was redefining what basketball could be. The WNBA was no longer treated as a secondary product or a side project. It had become a key pillar of the NBA's global strategy. Sponsorship revenue tripled. International networks began negotiating multi-year deals to air WNBA games. In China, arenas sold out in minutes when word spread that Caitlin Clark might play there. For the first time, young fans around the world wore WNBA jerseys with the same pride they showed for NBA stars. The transformation was undeniable. Under Engelbert, the league had fought for relevance. Under Silver, it had achieved dominance. The Silver era wasn't just about one commissioner replacing another. It was a reimagining of women's basketball itself. What once felt like a niche passion project had evolved into a global brand, united under a single vision that bridged gender, geography, and generations. Engelbert's fury, in the end, wasn't just about losing power. It was about being erased from the narrative she had spent years trying to write. She had positioned herself as the visionary leader behind the WNBA's success, but history would remember something different. That it was Adam Silver who transformed frustration into a revolution, who saw through the noise and built a structure that could finally sustain the league's potential. And at the center of it all stood Caitlin Clark, not as a pawn in a power struggle, but as the spark that ignited a movement. Her talent gave Silver the leverage he needed to rebuild from the ground up. Her popularity gave him the proof that women's basketball could compete on the world stage. And her global appeal ensured that the WNBA's next era would be defined not by bureaucracy, but by brilliance. In the end, Cathy Engelbert's downfall wasn't a scandal or a firing. It was an evolution, the quiet, inevitable moment when control passed from an executive who had run out of vision to a leader who saw the future clearly. Adam Silver didn't just end her career. He ended an era of small thinking, replacing it with a global blueprint that would forever change the landscape of women's sports. The message couldn't be clearer. The old WNBA, built on spin, survival, and slow progress, is gone. What replaced it is a powerful, unified, global force, driven by stars like Caitlin Clark and guided by the same commissioner who turned the NBA into the most dominant sports brand in the world. The Silver era has begun. Now the question is, was Adam Silver's takeover a necessary evolution, or the quiet removal of a leader who simply couldn't keep up? Did Cathy Engelbert deserve a chance to finish what she started, or was her downfall the price of real progress? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe the WNBA's transformation was inevitable, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that dig into the biggest power shift shaping the world of sports today.